You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode down at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame today with return guest Bailey from Bondi Bowls. It's not Bailey, it's Haley.
No, it's Bailey.
Is it?
It is.
Because I look at your, I get that wrong all the time.
I know, I get it a lot. Because it's Hey Bales on my Instagram.
That's what it is.
And
I saw your tag, right?
Yeah.
On the tag on your truck says Bales, right?
Yeah.
I'm keeping that in. That's just my mistake. I listened to our previous podcast on the way here, and it is, I'm going to pull it up. It was January of 2021.
Yeah.
It was just over a year ago. A lot has changed. It was episode 262. A lot has changed since then. In that podcast, you spoke about you had just signed another truck in Edmond, so you're going to have two trucks in Edmond, and then the lady from Fort Worth had just signed, and you had kind of teased the fact that there was going to be a space coming. That was January 12 months ago, and at that point you were 6.5 months into starting the business.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, a year, let's call it a year and a half
Yeah.
in. I mean, we've come a very, very long way, and it's been awesome to watch. You've just had the grand opening up in Edmond, which, I mean, you're a week after the grand opening, and you just said your feet are extremely sore, right?
They are. My body is exhausted.
But it's been an amazing turnout, which we'll touch on in a little bit about that, that opening day, which was really cool to watch on social. But in the first podcast, we touched on the context of, your real Oklahoma story, your coming back to Oklahoma and the whole reason behind it, which I'll link for everyone listening in the description, episode 262. And you can go back and hear Bailey's story and kind of how the business comes about, how Bondi Bowls starts, with some health problems from my dad, and then, you just having these bowls in Australia from living there and working there, and just a really neat story. And then, one thing you touched on when we talked about the podcast, the previous one, you said, I just want to build a brand. And, some people, they just have one truck, right? And they're happy with it. That's all they do. That's their schedule. And I called onto this because in the website, it's just Bondi Bowls USA, right? It's not just like Bondi Bowls or Bondi Bowls OKC. You had much bigger plans for it, which has been awesome to watch in such a short period of time. Now, I mean, where are we at now?
So now we have 17 trucks across 7 states, and 2 storefronts will be opened by the end of this year for sure, but hopefully more. So
yeah.
It's just the beginning.
You're right. You're totally right. It's just the beginning.
Yeah.
But 17 trucks in 2 locations.
From Oregon to Alabama at the moment. It's crazy.
So how, I guess, let's start with the first truck, other than the Edmond one, the first out-of-state one. How did they find you?
Yeah, she found me on Instagram. So she went to OC and she was up visiting friends, found it on Instagram and told her friends, hey, we should go check out this food truck. And she just kind of approached it and was like, what if I did this back home? And so she was my first one, and it was crazy that she was also a complete stranger. Someone that just kind of walked into my life and was like, I love what you've done. I love the brand that you've made, and I want to do it in Fort Worth and get to bless that community. Yeah. So that was really cool and very humbling. And since then, most of my truck owners I haven't known, or they've found me and reached out in different ways. So
because that's one thing that I, again, we touched on in the previous podcast, was the fact that you just embraced social media, went flat out at it. You were different, Reels had just come out and you were all after it, and you'd kind of got the buy-in from your employees that, hey guys, if you want to dance in front of the truck, knock yourselves out. But it was strategic, wasn't it? And it was really cool. And I remember, I think, what was it, when you got to 10,000, right? It was trying to get you to 10,000, and now you're at what? Is it 20 yet?
We're at 18.1 or something like that on Instagram. It's crazy.
So it's really cool to see that, because that does have worldwide reach, right? And it's just different. and the whole community behind it. It's really cool that you have built. I mean, you've built a tribe. Like, it's awesome to see.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that's clearly even anyone who's just gone on Instagram or looked at the page and the photos and all the content from grand opening. I mean, what was it? You opened 9 to 9, right? Was it 9 to 9 Saturday?
Yeah, that was a bad idea, but that was 12
Sunday.
hours running in circles nonstop. But
I know you mentioned to me it was supposed to be open a lot sooner, right?
Yes.
Like a lot of things during COVID. I mean, a previous guest we had on was Jake Keys, who opened up a brewery, and he mentioned in the podcast, like, it was annoying that, like, he's like, I keep having to put it back because of complications from last year.
Yeah.
But it makes it special when you get to that final day and you're like, I saw you guys had the prayer, and then you're cutting the ribbon and the balloons and everything, and just the joy on your face of just like, this is it. This is the first store, right?
Yeah.
And then, like I said, you've just got lines of kids and people and mums and dads and whoever around just to come in and support the business that you've built, which in a year and 6 months is amazing, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, because we signed the building February 5th of last year.
Yeah.
And so I was so determined to open before the year mark. So January 22nd, we pushed it pretty close, but yeah, it was crazy. Like, I remember I arrived at Bondi Bowls on the day at like 7:30 or something like that. And people were sitting in their cars waiting to stand in line when we opened at 9 a.m. By like 8:30, there was over 100 people. We'd already given away our free 100 shirts, and it was past Hideaway. And my first 2 customers, shout out to them, they were amazing. They drove from like Guthrie all the way to Edmond to sit outside and support my food truck that turned into a storefront. So it's just cool to see the community and people that aren't just friends and family like rally around this business and this brand. Yeah,
it is amazing. And we're going to get into kind of the crux of just the brand building and the business building, because just to do that in such a short amount of time, and the way that you've done it, like the franchise model, and it's just, 17 trucks is just awesome, right? Like, and there's clearly, like I said, there's a need for it, right? There's people want this stuff and they want to have the brand, and they want to. You got 17 people who want 17 owners, right? And we've got mutual friends who are owners, like who bought a truck, started a truck, and had a baby in the same 6 months. Jared and Claire, I'm talking about you guys. And
rock stars for sure,
and hope the little one's doing well.
And he has the Aussie accent too.
And he is from Australia, so it helps. It's awesome. So let's go. Because we've given all the context for people about your story in the first podcast, let's talk about kind of this whole last year and what it takes to open up a store, and also kind of just the 17 trucks that you have. Talk about that first truck again. Then the lady, she was, I guess she went to school up here, so she saw you, reached out. This is the first person that's going to technically out of state that's going to buy a truck, franchise a truck from you. What was that whole process like? How long did it take? Training, like, talk to me about all that.
Well, it was really scary at first, because you're trusting someone you've never met before with something that's your baby and you've like fostered for so long or a short amount of time. So I think that was probably the hardest part of it, is just the fear of it all. And then I would say, altogether, it was a learning curve for both of us. So she was teaching me a lot. I was learning a lot from her, and vice versa. She had signed, I believe, in end of January, February, and then we had her up and running in March. So our turnaround time was pretty quick. We did a 3-day training up here in Oklahoma. She got to ride on my truck, do the whole thing, brought our family, and then I pretty much I'm a little bit of type A, a little OCD, and I have this file folder, and it's just everything that you need to know: who to talk to, the health department, what licensings you need to get, how to get your LLC, all these different things. So I've tried to make it as easy as possible, where they just press buttons and they can get everything ready. But there'll be things like, I made an Amazon checklist, and I put these giant tubs on there, and I said to buy 6 of them, but they came in cartons of 6. So she had all these buckets, and she was like, what am I supposed to do with all these buckets, Bailey? So it was like definitely like a learning curve for both of us. And then she couldn't return them, so now she has like tons of buckets. So it's little things like that like she was really gracious towards me, and the fact that like I was learning on what it looks like to replicate something that I had spent so much time on. And so that was kind of like the grace portion of it. So since then, obviously, people just buy the one thing with the 6 buckets and things like that. And so I think it was just a month and a half though, because we wanted to move quick. I mean, and that's kind of like my personality is like, let's do, go. And she's the same way. And so that one was really quick and easy. Since then though, there'll be lots of COVID restrictions. There'll be, the truck can't get built out in time, things are pushed back, inspections are moved around, things like that are like out of our control. As well as me personally, like wanting to be present with them and not being able to get there. Like for Alabama, I think we had to push it back a little bit so that I could be out there and help them get started, things like that. So yeah. But we try to move pretty quick.
Yeah.
we like to move quick.
That's super quick. And it's, I mean, it just having, you're right, like that whole, like, I'm trusting you with my brand. Like, that's a big step, right? And the first one, obviously, everyone gets easier after that, because then I assume you have, like, a process of making sure that, like, each client, each owner kind of fits the mold.
Yeah.
Have you turned anyone down?
We do get a lot of requests, sometimes for requests of territories that are already open, so I'm not able to do those. But I mean, Bondi, the brand, as we just continue to grow, it is important, the people that are part of the brand too. And we have some of the best owners. I mean, they work hard, they give a lot, they give back to the community. They're typically local in that community, which I think is really important. And so, yeah, I've tried to be really intentional about the owners that do move forward and open up a truck.
If someone does happen to listen to this, which would be awesome, and does want a truck, and they are in a place that isn't, a territory that's taken, how does that franchise model work?
Yeah, so they apply online on our website, and then from there I send them the information, let them review it again, and to look at it in more details. Then we schedule a time to do an interview, or like it's just kind of a get to know you. They ask a lot of questions. I'm able to, ask questions about them, see if they're able to, because it's at the end of the day, food trucks especially are a lot of work. It's exhausting. I've had to put in so many hours of lifting things, heavy things, moving stuff around. You're working with all these different clients, and you're with a different client each day. So you're trying to be really present with the client you're with while emailing 7 clients for next week. So it's just like, it pulls from you in a lot of different ways. So, I always try to lead with that, and sometimes that'll be like the deal breaker for a lot of them, is that it is a lot of work, and so the operations side of it might not be what they were expecting or what they saw when they see a food truck. So and then after that, we kind of just get started. We find the truck, we build out the territory, sign the papers. And then once you sign the papers and we find the truck, you can be open like in 2-3 weeks time. Because we have everything else all sorted. I have the blenders at my house. Everything's ready to go. We just need the truck and the buy-in, the signature. So
do you like purchase all the truck and all the equipment, or did they do it and then like, I mean, you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but I'm super interested in how it works.
So for the trucks right now, trucks are really hard to find. Amazon has been buying them up, or FedEx or whatever, because there's just so many online shopping now. So because of that, it's hard to find trucks. So we have started building some out on our own. So like my dad's a rock star. He helped build the storefront, and now he's transitioning to build out food trucks so that we have a food truck when someone's ready. So we have 2 more food trucks just sitting at my house ready to be built out. So we try to do it as best as we can. Some people opt to do it on their own, and they'll go through like a custom food truck place, or they'll buy it. I bought mine on Facebook Marketplace and then just like redid it myself. So that's an option. And at the end of the day, it just comes to like what kind of truck you're wanting, what your price budget is, that kind of thing. So the trucks that's sitting at our house, probably like aren't as reliable and more similar to mine. Whereas if you buy a brand new truck and get it built out custom, it's going to probably last longer, have a nicer engine, that kind of thing. So
how much does a new truck cost with fully built out?
Fully built out is probably it depends how nice you're going. There's the Cadillacs of Bondi Bowls, or Cadillacs of food truck world, and they can be upwards of 120, 130. Yeah. Or you can buy a used one and fix it up for 35 to 50.
I mean, even a used one and fix it up is still a huge investment.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's
100%.
still a huge amount of money that, but again, that's something that you've built into the franchise model and it clearly there's a model, you've built out a plan that it works, right? If you do this, like a menu, if you put this together, make the calls and it's going to work. And then it's on to them then to schedule out and,
Yeah, so they do all their scheduling. That's the best part about a food truck is you can work when you want to and not work when you don't want to. I did just make my big corporate hire as well. So I have my first corporate employee, and we start training this week on Tuesday, actually. And his role is pretty much to sit down with all the trucks quarterly and just be like, here's the numbers, here's what we've done. But if we made, this many cold calls and had this much return, we could increase this much percentage, and we could increase sales. Look, you're doing really well in this tiny little town. Let's target that town on your Saturdays or things like that. And just giving a better outside perspective, because when you're in the truck world, you're not thinking about those things. You're waking up, you're going to the destination, you're coming home, you're going to bed, So he kind of just is going to be able to do big picture stuff and really help them be like, this is how much we need to make based off of your expenses to make sure you're breaking even. This is to make sure you're profiting, to make sure it's your full-time job. I have several owners that this is their full-time job now. And they work, 9 months, take 3 months off, which is awesome. And such an amazing platform. So I'm excited to have this employee with Jacoby come in and be able to offer them all these new things and be able to talk them through ways to be strategic moving forward, which is fun.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And for them to have that resource, I'm sure they're pumped as well, right?
Yeah.
So with it, does every POS system on the truck come back to central to you guys so you can see everything?
Correct,
and so he has all the data then that he can just say, hey, whatever you're doing on Saturday, keep doing it.
Keep doing that.
Or don't do it, go to somewhere else. And also with the data, there's no excuses.
Yeah.
Right? It's just well, why am I not doing well? Well, it's because you're not open on Saturday or Sunday, or Friday night. It's probably an issue.
Yeah.
So for you then, how does Bondi Bowls take just an amount every year, or is it a percentage?
So it's a percentage every month.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So that makes so that makes sense then. So that's really interesting. So you get 17 basically 17 data streams coming in.
Correct.
And then Jacoby then's just going to meet with everybody quarterly and say, as well as doing other stuff. Obviously, he's going to be doing a lot more.
Poor guy.
Yeah. So how many states? 7 states, was it?
7 states. So we're trying to go left to right. Oregon, Arizona, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, Louisiana. Yeah, so.
I just thought it's the best thing ever. What's funny, though, is when we started talking, you said that, everyone comes here for training and everyone trains on your truck. And then some of the trucks, obviously, are much newer and nicer, so they come to yours and okay, if we can work on this truck, we can do everything.
Exactly. My truck is 10 feet. I think I'm the smallest truck. I think, actually, Arkansas has a smaller one, but 10 foot by 6.5, 7. And I normally have 3 or 4 people crammed in there. So they're all just shoulder to shoulder, and most of my other trucks are 14 by 7.5, and so they're really nice. So they're always wow, Bailey, very humble beginning. Good start.
It's good though, right? Because they're you're hey, I didn't start with a perfect truck,
right?
My truck might have broken down, it was really tight, but we made it work.
Right.
And if I can make it work, you can make it work.
Exactly.
Right? Again, there's no excuses in that. One thing that I loved is that, even this week, I think you posted on your Instagram story that you were still running to the store to grab fruit and inventory and just bringing in crates of fruit, because, it's a great problem to have.
Oh, it's a great problem.
Right? But you probably didn't think that people are going to keep coming through, on the weekdays, and obviously weekends are big, but during the week you think, it'd probably die down a little bit.
Exactly.
And you're running to the store and grabbing more food.
I know. You would think after like 20 months I would have this inventory thing figured out. It still blows my mind every time when people show up. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a line. It's just like the best feeling in the world. And you think, oh, like it might die down on a Wednesday, and it doesn't. No. And it's just like, okay, we need more strawberries. Right. And we need a couple more kiwi.
Well, and people keep coming in just to hang out too, right? Like, which is, they're not just like coming and going. Like they're in there and they're using the space, whether it's just to work or whatever it is. Like that's
I was really intentional with my storefront too, specifically. Like, I love studying in places. There's outlet at each table. And then even like our tables, they're 2 inches longer than most normal restaurant tables so that your laptops don't touch. Things like that. They're also like really sturdy, so they're not like wobbling when you're studying or sitting, and little ones are touching the tables. And then the legs like make it easy for you to like cross your legs while you're sitting, stuff like that. So I wanted to be like really intentional of making it a space where people felt comfortable to sit around and hang out and grab coffee with a friend or bring their little one, and their little one can be pulling on things and not too worried about what's going to fall on them or anything like that. So
fine details, but they all add up.
Yeah, exactly.
So opening up this new spot, and obviously it's taken almost a year, and you finally got it open, and there's a lot of things. It's not just a truck in a space, right? I mean, your menu was doubled, maybe even tripled, which we'll get into. Like there's a lot more that goes into it. The build out super cool. Thanks Dad for the build out. It looks awesome. And when I came up the other day, we talked about the mirrors, right? You got these surfboard mirrors that you found, which is just like, so your friend make them?
No, it was her idea. Okay, she looked at the space and she was like, surfboard mirrors. And I was like, genius. I hadn't thought of it. And so I was like, okay. So we found them on Etsy, and they're so fun.
Tell me about kind of the build out of the menu and kind of exploration and the taste testing and all of that. I mean, that's probably the most fun thing to do is build out a menu, because you get to taste test and product test for, months.
Yeah, so. It was really fun. It was me and my sister, and both of my sisters, we were just in the kitchen, and we had the music playing, and it was just like a fun, creative space. But we did a lot of not great ones to test try. I mean, there were some really nasty ones in there to find that, because we wanted to be really fun with it. So like our strawberry and banana smoothie actually has like pepper in it, and then actually brings out the taste of the strawberry. But in order to find the perfect equation, you have to put too much pepper in it, a couple times, and be like, oh my gosh, this tastes terrible. But it was so much fun. And then we did like a small soft opening with just friends and family that came in, and they'd be like, oh gosh, this is terrible, or oh my gosh, this one's so good, or add a little bit more peanut butter to that one. So that was really fun. And adding like the juices and the health shots, those were really fun to test try and make other people test try, because health shots just in general like make you like this. And so when we would do it wrong, people would be like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. So it was fun.
Is there any consequence of taking too many health shots in one day?
Probably. Honestly, there were times I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a little jittery. A lot of apple cider vinegar in that. But they were so fun. But I would say we did a lot more bad ones until we found the good ones. So it was fun. We would be like just running on top of each other and like throwing things in the dishwasher and going to the store and buying a bunch of random stuff that didn't make sense, that we're like, we're gonna try this in this smoothie or things like that. So,
So you mentioned juices and health shots. Is there anything that, we can go through the whole menu. We got time. Okay. So other than you had the 4 bowls on the truck, right?
So we had 6 bowls on the truck. And then we added 6 more bowls. Okay. But we added 3 more bases. So we have like the acai and pitaya bases, which are on the truck. And then we added the blue base, which is a spirulina, which is a plant. It's full of a lot of antioxidants, similar to the acai berry, and it's pretty much just like mashed up to a powder, and it's blue. So that one's really fun. That was also our like 4th of July patriotic bowl that we would just do like on occasion. So it was fun to get to bring that in full time, because we got so many compliments on that. We also have a banana coconut base. It tastes like ice cream, to be honest. I love it because I think it tastes more like banana than coconut. I'm not a big coconut person, but it's so good. And then and one of the bowls is like a pina colada. So it's the coconut base, with our chia pudding, which is so good. I'm obsessed with our chia pudding. And then pineapple and banana. So that one's really good. And then we have a green base, which is actually my favorite, and I'm not a green person, but it's spinach, kale, and mango, and it's so good. And then we added smoothies. So we have like, I think 6 or 7 different smoothie options. One of them, my favorites, I love the green one again. Yeah. It's spinach, kale, and pineapple for the smoothie. And it's just so good, like so good. And then we have one called the Manly Beach.
Yeah.
And it's peanut butter and jelly. So it's like protein powder, peanut butter, blueberries, almond milk, and something else. And it's like so good. It's by far my favorite. I get it pretty much every single day at this point. Our juices are fun because we make them fresh. So like when you order it, we go back and make it right then. So there's no like preservatives or anything to help make them last. So I really like our juices, but they do take a while to make. So that's the only downside to it because I love being fast and efficient. Right. So the fact that our juices take time is
bothers
hard.
You.
Yeah, I'm like, there's got to be a way. I've got to figure this out. And then the health shots, those are good. They're good. The Miami one is my favorite. I do actually really like that one. Yeah. It's the apple cider vinegar one. And then we have like little power balls, which is like our granola. Our granola is probably like people buy it by the bag all the time. So it's our granola, our homemade peanut butter, chia seeds, and agave, and vegan chocolate chips. And our granola is vegan too. So it's like very health conscious, but also like a really nice sweet treat. Yeah. And then what else do we have? We have all sorts of fun things. We've got overnight oats. We have the chia pudding. We've got yogurt parfaits. We also have like our merch lines, which are so fun. I love seeing like people come in wearing like our Bondi Bowls crew neck or the windbreaker or any of our t-shirts, which is so fun. And then each truck like also has their own t-shirt that's custom made. So all of my truck owners have designed their own t-shirt for their location. So some of them have like a cowboy hat on it with a surfboard or anything that's like geared towards their location or something about them. And then they also have like their own surfboard and like own colored surfboard. So that's kind of like a unique touch to each truck as well.
Yeah, that they can kind of customize and have, I guess, make it to their own, right?
Yeah.
The one with the cowboy probably looks really cool.
It's really cool. Yeah. It's really sweet. Yeah. One day I want to see if anyone's able to collect every single food truck shirt because you can only buy them at the certain food truck. You can't buy it like at the store or anywhere else. So I'm waiting to see which person can go to all 17 trucks or plus and get all the different
Do you
shirts.
have all of them?
Of course.
Of course
I have
you do. So have you made a quilt out of all of them?
I need to. I need a quilt.
Yeah. Because then you just keep making quilts because
I know there were so many
expanding.
quilts.
Yeah.
I hope.
Is there anything that didn't make the menu that like you just kind of didn't have room for, or something that like you just make that's not on the menu that like, hey, this is just for me?
To be honest, there were a couple of smoothies that it was really hard to let go of. There was one that was like a cinnamon roll one that me and my sister put together. And yeah, it was just one of those things where we had to like be realistic on the realities of our menu and be like, no, we can't have it. There were a few different bases that we tried that were like mango or more like tropical that I really wanted to add. But just again, the realities of having so many bases just like overcomplicates it for my employees and it takes away the efficiency side of everything. So we had to like pick the top 6 and the top 8. But yeah, so there's a few that me and my sister, we make in the back just for ourselves. And sometimes our employees get really creative with it too. Because now we have like all these new ingredients, you know, sitting in the freezer. So the other day, one of my girls like made this smoothie. It was like so pink and so beautiful. And she like even decorated it out. And we're like, oh. So it might be our Valentine's Day smoothie. I don't know.
Well, that's another good thing too, right? Is that you can bring things out for occasions, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day.
I know.
I mean, 4th of July, you already have one, like all of this stuff. But then you trial those and hopefully keep them, you know, if they do well, you might keep them in for longer.
Yeah.
Or if someone wants one, they can always just ask nicely.
Yeah, we do have a secret menu.
Here. You do have a secret menu.
We do have a secret menu. It's on Instagram. My sister manages Instagram. So just be aware now. It's
how do we find the secret menu on Instagram?
I can't even tell you how she spelled it, but it's Bondi Bowls secret menu, but she uses a whole bunch of different characters for each letter, and it's a private account, but we have things like the Bedlam Bowl, which is half acai, half pitaya. And we have things like one's called the Kitty Pie, and it's bananas and strawberries with peanut butter and vegan chocolate chips on it. We have the Sunset Beach Lemonade, which is the tiger's blood syrup from shaved ice mixed in with lemonade.
Yeah.
So, and there's a whole bunch of other little things. Like my mom's go-to is she orders it as a hot mess. So you can come up and say, I want a Bondi Bowl, but make it a hot mess. And we pretty much just like do it backwards. So we put like the toppings on the bottom and the base on top. So that's easier to mix and eat.
Oh, I need to do that.
Yeah, because people hate like trying to like push it all in and stuff.
Yes.
So little things like that.
I found the Instagram
You found
page,
the Instagram.
and I requested to follow it, so hopefully I get accepted.
Hopefully she lets you in.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm looking right here. There's a Bondi Bowls UK, sadly, on Instagram.
I know.
It's like a salad bowl.
Yeah.
God, such a shame. If anyone in Wales is listening, maybe you can have a first international. You don't have an international one yet, right?
I don't. I've had some requests from friends in Australia, and I really want to go there one day, but we haven't yet.
Australia and New Zealand is like the hardest place to get to right now.
Oh my
COVID.
gosh. Yeah. It's
Horrendous.
crazy.
Yeah.
The stories my friends have, it's insane.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine traveled back from New Zealand and he had to sit in a hotel, I think it was for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And paid for it.
Yeah.
It was awful.
And they like won't let you go anywhere.
No,
like,
he said it was like
knock on your
prison.
door for food.
Yeah. He said there was an option to, it was like, he said basically ticked like a healthy menu or unhealthy menu. And then they had like 1 hour exercise every day. They go to I was like, you're crazy, right? He's like, no, it's just how it is. It's like, well, it's not how it is over here. So you need to go
Specifically
over here.
Oklahoma.
Specifically Oklahoma. But it would be cool to go back to kind of where it all started. And to have, a truck back there, or I mean, just to go back would be special, especially with family. Like to take family there, to see like, hey, this is the beachfront apartment that we had. It's like 300 square feet, and kind of that would be really cool to do. Would you ever like go back and live there? If out here this could run itself, would you go back and live in Australia?
I would love to. Because of visas, it does seem, I think it's just going to get more difficult with visas to go there. But in a perfect world, it would be cool in the next couple of years to spend another few years living there. But probably not.
Yeah. And well, the good thing is that I guess once the store is kind of like standing on its own 2 feet and kind of runs itself. And if anybody wants to be a manager, Bailey's hiring right now. If anyone wants to be a manager of not just one store, maybe multiple stores, it'll run itself. And you could, like you said, you have a truck owner that works, takes 3 months off. Like, it would be nice to spend 3 months in Australia.
It would be so nice. And because that's their summer is our winter.
Yeah.
So it would be a very nice getaway.
A perfect switch, isn't it?
It is. It really is. So.
What, I guess, other stuff that's kind of happened over the last year, you came out with like a fitness kind of wear, right? Built by Bondi?
Yeah. So it was actually some of my employees that work for Bondi Bowls. We had sat down and we were like, we want to grow this brand to the next level, and we want to not only fuel people, but we want to grow them in all different ways. So Blake and Kate kind of spearheaded this, and it's actually their business, so it's not mine, which has been so cool to just like encourage them and help them grow as entrepreneurs because they're both rock stars. But the objective is obviously the clothing line, but they want to do like a gym or something like that in addition, or on Saturday mornings go to the park across from Bondi Bowls and lead a fitness thing of some sort. So it's been really cool to watch them grow their entrepreneurship in that way. But yeah, I love the clothing. I'm wearing it right now. This is the Built by Bondi top. I'm obsessed with it. The material's great. So and they're just rocking it. So
yeah. So what are we missing? I mean, we've done. You got general clothing, kind of sweats and crew necks and comfy clothes and dad hats and surfboards. Has anyone bought a surfboard from you yet?
No, but that would be awesome.
Yeah, just to go in their office, like even like kind of like not mini ones, but like I don't know, ones that are like 3 feet long would be really cool.
Oh my gosh, I should do that. I haven't even thought about it.
That would be really cool. I'm just trying to think of where this, the other things that are on the menu other than, and I mean business menu in a sense of not just food. You've got clothing, store, which you have another store coming up soon, right?
We're going to be in Edmond Center Court, the tennis facility in Edmond. So I'm really excited about that to like grow the micro unit spaces. I think I love my big space and I think it's a great flagship location, but most of my owners, I see them doing like little micro units or like small, tiny little shops versus something as extravagant as mine. So this is kind of a nice, good easing our way into that and understanding how that would work as like a part of something else.
So as you got that one, other than those two, is your plan to take any more locations or would you just kind of go in the truck route?
I like the truck route. I think the truck route is like where everything's heading right now. Trucks are easy, especially with COVID. You can go to the community, you can serve them directly. You're partnering with different companies, and there's just like a really broad impact. But like I said, they are a lot of work, and so I think it's quick to transition into something like a storefront, or for our owner operators to turn into just owners and kind of pass the baton on as the operators. But I do have people, it also is dependent on location. So like for Florida, it's kind of hard to do food trucks. So people that have reached out for the Florida location, we've been talking more like micro units or what are they called? Like shipping container options, things like that. Same with California. That's kind of the route we would go in because of the emission laws in California are really strict.
Is that the same in Florida or not?
No, Florida doesn't have those laws. Florida is just like really difficult to get around and it would be harder for parking. It's more of a parking thing. But for California, they have like emission laws for their cars.
Don't go to California.
So for that, we would definitely do like a storefront or something like that. So I feel like each location is different and each owner has like a different perspective of what they want and what they see the community needs. So I think trucks are quick, easy, and successful, and I know the route and I know how to do it. But I think that the storefronts are kind of like the next thing that's going to follow closely behind the trucks. And it's easier for the customers. Like, it's so fun having the customers come in and say, "Oh my gosh, it's so great you have a location. It's so fun that I can always come here. I can bring my daughter and I know I can get an afternoon snack," or things like that. So I think that's something that all of my owners want to bless their community with one day too. So I see it trailing behind for a lot of my food truck, especially the ones that are doing it full time and want to keep it full time.
Do you ever think of doing kind of mixing bits of both and having a drive-through at your location?
Yes, that was the dream.
Because you're on the end, right?
I'm on the end. Mine won't be a drive-through, but when I was looking for locations, drive-through was like number 2 on like
buying an old restaurant,
what I have
basically.
to have. The first one though was like the location being close to like a park or something that's like
active.
And so, or like a gym or something like that. So I got the park, which is across the street from Bondi, but I don't have the drive-through. But I think most of my locations moving forward will probably have drive-through because it is the sense of ease and that kind of stuff. So now that we're getting, the other thing was I didn't know how efficient we would be or like how quick our products would be out with a bigger menu, and we're still moving like pretty quick, and we can pretty much do the turnaround time pretty quickly. So I can see a drive-through being an easy
as long as they
addition.
Don't want juice.
Right? Exactly. No juice orders
you
to the
have
drive-through.
to park over there if you want juice. And
exactly. But it's just crazy to think like that people are willing. I mean, people were waiting an hour and a half for our storefront in line, and that is just leaves me shocked and just makes me excited for the fact that it is something that I would want to expand on and keep growing and to do as a franchise, the storefront as well. So
and it was cold that day. You had your grand opening.
Freezing. It was absolutely freezing. And people were standing. They were all bundled up. We even had one woman who was wearing gloves, but we had put a space heater out there. I mean, I don't think it did much, and it burned her gloves. She was so cold that she had stood too close to the space heater. So it's just the fact that people like not only were so excited to get a Bondi Bowl, but they were willing to stand in crazy temperatures to do it is just so humbling and so much fun.
It is awesome, and it's great to see. And just like I mean, I love kind of seeing the impact that you have, you know, from that day or that weekend on social media. It's just, you know, like I'm kind of a big fan, a bit of a nerd about social media. So it's kind of cool seeing the impact. And I always go to like look at like the tagged photos and then the location and then the hashtag as well, just to kind of see. And the amount of people that I knew that were there, it's just like, this is so cool. Like, you know, and people driving from, like you said, Guthrie or, you know, Moore or wherever, just to come to the location, just to see it. You know, and support you. It's really neat. I mean, it's
it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's all come from, you know, something, going back to our first podcast, it came from, you know, something that you weren't really happy about. That obviously Dad had a scare, you came back, and then when you landed, he was fine.
Yeah.
And you kind of taken you away from Australia. Which, looking back, I mean, you got back like just before things kicked off in March last year, right? Mm-hmm. So it was like the first week of March you got back, and then everything went nuts.
Exactly, yeah.
And then a month later you have your own truck. Yes. Which, shout out to Mum, that's awesome. I bet the one thing now, though, is probably nice to have a kitchen is actually like you're not just making granola and peanut butter on the truck or in your mum's kitchen. Like, you've got a legit space for it. So production of that's probably gone up too, right?
Yeah, you would think so. My mom actually made that comment the other day.
Are we putting your mum on blast here now?
She was like, actually, you know, I thought I would have this big mixer and these huge ovens and all this stuff. And she's like, I could, you know, whip it out so quick. But then she gets dragged into, hey, can someone do the dishes? Oh, can someone make this juice? And so she gets dragged off to all these other things and keeps burning the granola and stuff. So I don't know if she's made a decision yet if she likes it or if she's like, can I have my own space, please?
Yeah. So, which that would be next, is a bigger space.
Yeah,
right?
It would be nice to have where we do like a production site where we make the granola and stuff like that, because she makes it for all 17 trucks and my storefront.
So your mom's constantly making granola.
So she never stops working. And bless her heart, she's I don't pay her well, so so she does out of the kindness of her heart, which is awesome.
Oh, that's great to hear. Well, I mean, it's been just over a year since we recorded. The business is going to almost a year and 7 months. Yeah, and it's amazing to see how far you've gone. I think, what did we say last time? It was like, we're taking over the world, I think, it was like, maybe I just said it was world domination. I mean, you're on the way to it, which is awesome. Do you have kind of like a growth plan going forward of like, we'd like to have one new truck every 3-4 months, or is it just kind of organic?
Yeah, so now we've gotten more structure on like how we want to do things for openings. Mm-hmm. So like, we want to do all of our trucks that have signed between October and like January, all of them opening up in March, and just like boom, 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 boom. And then kind of like get more signed on, get people ready, and then do another big thing in like June. Yeah. And then probably the last one being in August or something like that. And then waiting off, because we had quite a few of my trucks because of COVID and things that were supposed to open in July, ended up opening in October, November. And that's like a very discouraging month, because it's kind of our lower ones. And even if my truck owners didn't feel discouraged, me as the founder was really discouraged, because I want all my owners to do well, and I want to be able to bless them with this position. And so when it was discouraging for me, I don't know, I haven't actually sat down and talked with each of them on how they felt about it, and they've never brought it up to me. But for me personally, I would rather them open during the hot, fun seasons and get to be blessed by that than to open and be discouraged. So.
Everybody likes to eat bad food in the end of the year, right? October, you got Thanksgiving coming in November, and then everyone takes off to Christmas.
Bowls.
Yeah, like that's the last thing on people's minds, right? Let's be honest. So I can see why you feel that.
It's been a weird role to transition into. I'm such a operations person. I love being super hands-on. I loved the truck and things like that. And moving into this founder role is definitely really humbling, because I'm not as hands-on, and I'm kind of more stepped back. And so learning how to be like a leader and a founder, whatever those roles mean or defined as, has been actually really hard, because it's roles that I've never been in before. And so that's kind of been a difficult part in this season, is figuring out, how to respond to things, when to speak up, when not to speak, and things like that like isn't something you get taught in school, and it's not something that people are teaching you. And so thankfully I have amazing mentors that have helped walk me through those different roles, but at the same time I still mess up and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful for very gracious owners that have extended kindness to me as I learn what it looks like to be in this role as a 26-year-old.
Yeah.
Because I don't know sometimes.
well, and that's the great thing, and the thing that definitely came from our first episode was like the fact that you're going to go and do something. Okay, if we fail or we mess up, we're going to figure it out and we're going to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that's clearly happened over the last year and a half. And, look at where you are now, and there's hundreds, maybe thousands of little failures in there, but you're still moving forward. And that's such a great lesson for people listening and future business owners. And I'm sure you got people looking up to you that like, I want to own a truck one day, or, guys and girls in high school that, that might work for you that like, this is awesome. I love this. You might inspire them to start the business like you started, and it might not be a Bondi business, but it might be something else. It's, like this really cool to have that and to have that impact. And, in a year and 7 months, it's pretty awesome. Sorry, my light just fell everywhere. It's pretty awesome to have that, and to kind of build that legacy and have, that kind of impact at the age of 26. I'm sure mum and dad are extremely proud. I'm sure they've told you many times how proud they are.
They do tell me that. They're sweet.
Which probably gets old. But it's really cool to have and have mum and dad buy into it. And obviously dad's helped with the handyman side of things. And then mum's making granola nonstop. So.
And that's the other thing that I realized looking back on, I'm so blessed with my family that has been rock stars through this, because obviously, like you were saying, there's a lot of bumps in the roads and there's hundreds of things and failures and trials that don't get talked about or are just things that happen within our family or whatever it is. And my parents and everyone has just been like so kind to me and understanding. Like when I do run out of inventory and it's Sunday at noon, which is our busiest hour, and I'm still driving past Sam's to grab all of our fresh fruit, they don't bark at me or say, oh, you should have done this, you should have known, you should have whatever. Right. They just are like so quick to grab it out of my car and start washing the strawberries and start cutting them. And I think that is like really important, and why we have also grown so quickly is because we aren't sitting there saying things that we did wrong. We're sitting there saying, okay, let's fix it and let's do it. And like, let's move on and make this better. And I think that is an important part of business, especially starting a new business, is stop sitting at the mistakes and just keep doing the right thing. Just solve the issue as quickly as you can and anticipate as much as you can. But if you don't anticipate it, find a solution right in the moment. So. Yeah. Life
lessons right there. Has anyone asked you to go speak somewhere yet?
Yeah. So I actually speak this Saturday at a girls' Galentine's event.
Okay.
From at 10 o'clock. So, and I've spoken in a couple of, at some universities and some classrooms and stuff to tell my story, and some churches and things like that. Which is terrifying.
Was it super weird?
Yeah, it's super weird. It's really interesting, and trying to be like mindful of time and what to say and what they want to hear, and so I've been reading a lot of books on like how to public speak and the 3-minute rule and things like that, and also like leadership books that help guide what I say and things like that. So that's been really helpful. But I never thought I would be speaking about my life or telling my story, especially in this season. So it's kind of crazy.
That's one thing I can see is like, it's just you being just authentically you, right? And just kind of standing there and be like, look, this might not work, but we're going to have a great time doing it, and I'm going to tell you how I've done it, and look, go through all the trials and tribulations, and this is where we are, and this is where we're going. And then people just see the passion in your face. I'm like, okay, like I can buy onto this, right? I can get behind this. And there's so many lessons there. There's more than we can fit into one podcast. That's why we've done 2. And I'm sure this isn't going to be the last one either, because in a year's time you might have double the amount of trucks that you have.
Hopefully,
right? Which would be really cool. And then micro locations all over. Which is awesome. But I want to thank you for taking time out. Like I said, the store's been open a week and 1 day, and you've taken some time out to come share some more stories. But for people listening, tell us the address of the store and then the website and And where can they follow and all that stuff?
It's 136 East 5th Street in Edmond. So we're right next to Hideaway and Cafe 501 across from Stevenson Park. And then you can follow us on Instagram, bondi.bowls, and Facebook is Bondi Bowls USA. And our website is just bondibowls.com, BONDIBOWLS.
And your Instagram is?
And mine is HAY, like _ Bales. Okay. So...
Who gave you that nickname?
I think I just gave it to myself, to be honest. I just thought it was really funny.
It is.
Thank you.
It's also confusing because people like me get it wrong all the time, which is totally my fault.
Actually, all of my Australian friends always thought my name was Haley because of my Instagram, so I get it.
There we go. Well, Bailey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Wish you... just a massive amount of success for the next year. At the end of the podcast we did last year, I think we just said 2021 is going to be a great year, and it's been an amazing year.
It's been an amazing year.
2022, let's see if we can up last year.
I think so. I have high hopes for it. It's
going to be awesome. For everyone listening, I'll post the link to the previous podcast, episode 262, and the links to the social medias, and we will catch you in the next episode. Cheers. This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.